And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome to RBLR Rowdies here on RBLR Sports. My name is Leo, joined by my friend, my fellow Rowdy fan, James. How you doing, James?
How am I doing? I'm fantastic. I am elated and I am ecstatic.
Tell me about it, man. You know, a 2-1 win from the Rowdies over this unofficial USL Championship that was canceled last season due to COVID-19. But what a game that was, James. It had everything that any fan could have expected.
Yeah, it had everything and it had a lot more in the end that we will certainly get to.
Yes. Before we get into the game, James, you want to tell us a little bit about the pregame, sir?
Yeah, so we had a press conference beforehand, as they usually do. There's not too much over with that. There was really just a kind of vibe that I wanted to hit. A lot of the coaching staff and the players, all beforehand, were trying to make sure that people knew that, you know, this wasn't sort of a revenge game for the fact that we missed out on the championship final last year. I think that, as we all saw, those of us who watched it, that's not actually what was going on in their heads, but they wanted to put that down for everybody to understand before. And like I said, I think that was just something that they were telling us to make sure that people weren't overhyped, but too late already.
Yeah, man, that was a bunch of baloney. Of course, these players were going to see it as a USL Championship game. Who wouldn't see it, right? It's way more than just Game 3 of the season, man. It had to be way more than that.
Exactly.
I just want to mention real quick that James, my friend, I have made a terrific comeback and predicted the correct score 2-1 for the Rowdies. What was your prediction? Again, remind me real quick.
Yeah, I'll remind you. It was 3-0.
Okay.
I would like to say that the Rowdies had several chances to get that third goal, but we'll get into all sorts of things here, and I guess right now the balance has swung in your favor too. So we'll have to see how this Miami game goes.
I'll try not to be too cocky because the tables could turn very quickly. But let's start the first half of that game. The first thing I noticed from even before the referee blew the whistle was the fans, man. The atmosphere, watching it on ESPN2, the atmosphere was crazy. The Ralph mob was excellent. You know, all the smoke flying, the chants, the drumming, it was just phenomenal, James.
I agree. I think that it was really cool to show people who were in the game and not actually in the stands what it is like to be at the game day experience. They had an awesome tifo up there, and they were truly rowdy from the first minute until all the way through the end of the game.
Yeah, and what a quick start this game had. You want to break us down that for a little bit, James?
Sure. So, yeah, we had an unchanged lineup getting into it, and that was pretty good to get started because we have had some good gelling from these players at this point. And the game, like we said before, the last week's episode, we mentioned how it was going to be on ESPN2, the actual network, and it switched over from ESPN News while they had another broadcast showing, but then it was on regular television. So that was pretty cool. They had Devin Kerr and Mike Watts, two people who have actually been on RBLR Sports before, friend of the pod, you could say. And I thought that they were really good hosts. We usually have Ryan Davis and Drew Felios doing those, and they're very good. They have good chemistry, but it was also really good to hear some new voices. But getting into the game itself, there was a lot of attacking going down the left-hand side, and I think that you have some more information about how the Rowdies tried to attack.
Yeah, from the moment on, I predicted that it was going to be a defensive game. That teams weren't going to really try to risk attacking too much, but the Rowdies did the complete opposite of that. They took the pressure early to Phoenix Rising, and in the opening 5 minutes, they had a goal. They had a goal already, an own goal, but just a build up of that play, from the left-hand side, Dos Santos running down. But before he even got to go into that space, the way he shrugged off that defender was just fun to see. His capability of just holding up play, but also holding up play for himself. I'm gonna shrug off this defender so I could get more room into a dangerous area. It's exactly what he did. He put a cross in the box. Although it wasn't a Rowdies player, it was a Phoenix player that hit it into his own net. But it was ultimately deserved because just the way from Rowdies started out the game, it looked like they were the team that were more likely to get their first goal of the game.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It was Steven Dos Santos, as you said, just showing how big and strong he is because he was up against a defender who's also pretty big. So Steven Dos Santos turned his man, got that cross in, and apparently we just learned this week, the fans, that he likes to go by the name Duba sometimes, Duba.
Duba.
So big Duba it was out on the field, and he was throwing his weight around. It was really cool to see.
Duba, I like Duba a lot. I like that name a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it was just before he even made that run, it was just a constant press. You know, we seen the ball bobbling around in the midfield, but like White, just kept on pressuring the ball. Hilton kept on pressuring the ball. It was just like a constant Rowdies that Phoenix didn't have an answer to it, and they paid for it very early on in the game. And as we went on, the Rowdies had another goal. Actually, no, that was in the second half. I apologize, but there was more chances for the Rowdies. Early in that first half to where it seemed like, whoa, the Rowdies are gonna just take this game by storm. It's like just the constant pressure, the constant deliveries in the box that the Phoenix just didn't know how to handle it, basically.
Yeah, and like we said, they were mostly going down the left-hand side. There were attacks down the right, but it definitely seemed as though Neil Collins decided that it was good for the Rowdies to try to target Darnell King, former player for the Rowdies, because they were combining on the left between Steven Dos Santos, Leo Fernandez, and Zach Steinberger. I saw was all involved this game. I thought that was really good, and yeah, between all of them, there was just so much movement and so much interplay moving forward that I thought that they could have scored another two in the 10th and the 11th minute, but unfortunately we had to wait a little later for that. And the other thing that you said was the pressing that the Rowdies were trying to incorporate into their game so that they could get the ball in much more advantageous positions. I thought that Lewis Hilton in the midfield was exceptional at that. I thought that he had a fantastic game and his marking was spot on.
Yeah, and like you said, it could have easily been 3-0 if it wasn't for Dos Santos with those two opportunities blown over the net. But it could have easily been 3-0. It could have put a lot more trouble into the Phoenix Rise and the defense. And one thing I want to mention real quick is that although the opening 11 minutes were all about the Rowdies, the tables seemed to shift a little bit. Phoenix Rise were like, okay, we know what they're doing, do what they're doing, back to them. And, we've seen a little bit more press, a little bit more awareness from Phoenix trying to go in and get that equalizer.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure from them as well, and the big problem that I saw for the Rowdies defensively was that the striker for Phoenix Rising, Rufat Dadashov, he was causing a lot of problems. He's another big man, and he was pretty much man-marked by Forrest Lasso all game. Now, Forrest Lasso is a giant guy. He's 6'5", and he's great in the air. But the issue is, you can be as good in the air as you want. You're just not going to be able to win 100% of your headers. And sometimes one is going to sneak past you. And unfortunately, that did happen later on. But outside of him, I thought that the Rowdies were extremely strong defensively. They really contained Solomon Asante on the right wing and Santi Moar on the left wing. Even though he did get the goal, I thought they were mostly much less effective than they have had the chance to do in previous games, and the stats did bear that out. That we'll get to later on.
Yeah, one thing I would say, going back to that first half, was that Evan Laurel, he almost had a howler. He was lucky it wasn't near his goal, but I believe it was a pass back from Aaron Guillen, and it just miscontrolled by Laurel, ended up to a corner kick. Luckily, it didn't cause anything too dangerous. But we seen later in the game that I believe it was a terrible pass from either Laurel or Lasso, but it almost caused danger again for the Rowdies. So I guess this ultimately proves that Laurel is human after all.
Yeah, he has had two good games of being Mr. Superman back, but it's definitely true that, I think the other thing that all of the Rowdies administration were trying to get out before the game, when they said that, this isn't a championship final replay, they were trying to make sure that the players didn't get that into their heads and start feeling really self-conscious about what decisions they were going to make and that kind of stuff. You just have to play normally, as most people who have played sports will tell you. You just got to, get in the groove of it and not be in your head. I think that unfortunately Oro might have been in his head a little bit, because there were a couple of giveaways, like you said, a couple bad passes, and then unfortunately, one of his clearances went straight out for a throw-in, and it was off the throw-in that Phoenix scored their goal from just the given away throw-in, and then a kick down the line that Forrest Lasso unfortunately was not able to get his head on.
Exactly. And the last 5 minutes of that first half, it looked like the Rowdies were going to score again. We know after the 25th minute mark, the game kind of settled a little bit, not really much chances. But the last 5 minutes, we've seen more crosses into the box. Dos Santos close with the header, just wide over the bar. I believe it deflected off the defender, but we've seen the Rowdies teasing the fans that we're going to get a second goal here. That didn't happen. We had to wait until the second half, 60th minute, where before Dos Santos scored, I believe it was Steinbrecher running down the right side of the field, putting in a cross in the box. Leo Fernandez controls it, hits it, saved by the Phoenix Rising goalkeeper, ends to a corner kick, delivers it by it was Hilton who delivered that corner kick. Lasso headers it down. Dos Santos in there for the rebound. One thing I want to mention real quick is that I believe Dos Santos earned this goal, the second goal, because, like I said before that, the play, although he didn't touch the ball on the play before the corner kick, he attracted two defenders away from Leo Fernandez. That way he could be 1v1 on goal. And it just shows that he doesn't really have to have the ball to be a threat towards not just Phoenix Rising's defense, but any defense in the league.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things about his combinations on the left wing that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It was Leo, it was Aaron Guillen, and it was Steven Dos Santos who were heavily involved, and as you said, Zach Steinberger. I thought all of those guys had tremendous games. There were, like we said, a couple of instances over the course of the game where Evan Loro and Forrest Lasso might have done a little better here and there, but there were also players who I don't think put a foot wrong the whole game, and everything that they did from the first minute to the last minute was top notch. But that is definitely one of those plays that shows where somebody earned it because they were playing well at the whole game leading up to it.
Yep. And I just want to talk about the celebration that he did almost a Superman celebration, the way he just pretended to rip his shirt, and it just shows what for him scoring that goal in this first time in the Rowdies. First time with the Rowdies in this season, and the way he was just celebrating, yelling, at the crowd with his teammates, it shows that this goal really meant a lot for Steven Dos Santos so early in the season. And it, again, exemplifies how I'm pretty sure players seen this more as just Game 3 of the season.
Yeah, exactly. It was definitely something bigger for everyone involved, I would say.
Yeah, but we before that goal, like I said, poor clearance from the back. Asante's through on goal. He's 1v1 with Laurel. He's through on goal. And Wyke just tracks back out of nowhere, just makes a last-ditch tackle and goes out for a corner kick. If Wyke isn't there, James, the game's tied up. There's no way Asante's not putting that ball through Laurel.
Yeah, there were chances both ways that I thought were, just a knife's edge that it could have gone one way or the other. And it was very lucky in that instance that I guess it's not really lucky because Lawrence Wyke was working his butt off to do that.
Yeah. The game, the 2-0 up, and like you said, Phoenix Rising gets back into the game with a goal, which shouldn't really have happened with that poor clearance from Laurel. Then just a long ball from the back, flick off from the header, then, the strike through. He's not really through because he still has to go through Scarlett and Guillen, but he's like, you know what, I got space, and we just shoot it, see what happens. And it was just, to be fair, it was a good strike.
It was a good strike. I can't fault him for that. I would probably put the fault farther up where, like we said, Lasso did have just a couple misses in this game. It's the case, as I said, you can't get 100% of your headers. It's not possible, and unfortunately, that was one of the ones where he steps forward, and when Dadashov gets his head to the ball, flicks it on over Lasso's head, then it falls to Santi Moar, who, as you said, has enough space because Lasso has vacated that space that he can put it in the back of the net.
Yeah, it was something for the fans to see, some entertainment for even people who aren't soccer. After that goal was scored, we seen Dadashov and Laurel get into it a little bit. Dadashov's going to the goal to get the ball to restart the game again. Laurel's hanging on to the ball. We see pushing, shoving. I would say a bit of headbutting as well.
Yeah, was getting pretty into it.
Yeah.
I thought that he put his head down and he was like, "No, you're not coming anywhere near me." It was like a turtle or a hedgehog pulling in and just trying to ram something.
Exactly. It was like, whoa, like the referees cautioned both of them with yellow cards, but I believe it was something for the fans to, see what this game really meant. And Laura looked like he was just ready to just go all out.
It was a feisty game from that point on. You could see it in a couple of other instances too, even from Darnell King, and again, a former Rowdies player that had to turn to kicks and jabs here and there.
Yeah, especially to our Lewis Hilton. Lewis Hilton lost the ball on the sideline. He gets the ball back, loses it again, and obviously a defender hits it off of Hilton and goes out of bounds for a throw in. But then I believe it, like you said, King, who slapped Hilton in the face. Obviously no caution there, but it just shows the intensity of this game. It was really, really high.
Yeah, exactly. And as we move forward in the game, there were a couple of other chances. Yeah. I thought Forrest Lasso here was another possible miss. Luckily, it did not lead to a penalty like I thought it should have.
Yes.
And then the Rowdies themselves had a couple missed chances too. So I think that Duba missed one later on, and then Aaron Guillen missed one like 2 minutes later, where they were right on the line and they had a great chance to make it 3. But maybe we need to be a little bit more clinical in the future.
Mm-hmm. And especially towards the end of the stoppage time, when we seen Phoenix Rising goalkeeper go up for a corner kick, Rowdies clear it. Adebayo Smith is gone. He's gone. It's just him in the goal. But defenders creeping behind him. He could have shot it. He could have had a better shot long distance. At least put it somewhere near on target. They didn't even make it halfway towards the open net. So I think, another missed opportunity for the Rowdies.
Yeah, it was just. That was one thing that it kind of left a bitter taste in my mouth towards the end. Well, I shouldn't say the end. By that point, I was just celebrating the fact that we had won, and everybody out on the field obviously was hugging and screaming, just enjoying themselves. But afterwards, when I had to, bring myself down a little bit and put on an analyst cap, I thought that there were a couple of missed opportunities that really could have put the game away.
Yeah, and one thing I want to mention real quick is that the battle between Aaron Guillen and Asante, I believe Aaron Guillen got the best of him. He did really well to keep him quiet throughout the game. He just won his 1v1 battles on that left side, and overall I thought he had a great performance. I could say the same for Jordan Scarlett, who looked like he was gonna be subbed off at halftime with that knock he took before right at the ending of the first half. But they both play strong. It shows that. If one defender like Lasso today is not really on his best game, you have two other defenders who could just pick up where Lasso isn't really doing his best. And Aaron Guillen and Jordan Scarlett showed that today.
Yeah, like I said, with Loro and Lasso, the problems that they experienced over the course of the game were pretty isolated to them, luckily. There were players who had just massive performances throughout the rest of the lineup. And as you said, Aaron Guillen was, I think, one of the top players out there for me. He was super strong when it came to Solomon Asante. At a certain point in the second half, Phoenix took their left back off. They brought on another player to try and attack, and that guy ultimately ended up getting yellow because he was diving against Aaron Guillen.
Yeah,
I mean that's really good work that you can get somebody carded ultimately because they couldn't get it to or they couldn't make the referee think that you had tackled them illegally. It was really good work and smart work from Aaron Guillen.
Exactly. One thing I want to mention before we move on real quick, like you mentioned earlier, the penalty shout. In my head, I believe that was a penalty. You believe that was a penalty, James?
I did.
The challenge Lasso did? Yeah?
Yeah, I did think that was a penalty. I thought that he was not... he was just second to the ball, and he got very lucky, as did the rest of the team, obviously.
Yeah. Well, it just shows that in soccer, especially in soccer, you need a bit of luck to win games like these, to see out games like the ones against Phoenix Rising. So
that's right.
Overall, 2-1 win for the Rowdies. Still undefeated, not unbeaten, undefeated, because they haven't lost or drawn a game. They're undefeated. So I want to get to the overall analysis of the game real quick, James. That's okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the fans, like we mentioned, were just outstanding, James. It's like I really cannot wait to get paid this Friday so I can finally buy a ticket to go down to Outlink Stadium.
Yeah, I am stuck at home right now helping with helping a family member with a medical issue, but as soon as I have the chance to go to one of these games, I know that I'm going to be coming into one of the best atmospheres in the league.
Same here. And quickly, the players themselves, we knew when the final whistle blew. Take us through the emotions that the players were going through when that final whistle blew, James.
Absolutely, yeah. You could see it on all of their faces. One of the players who had the ball in the midfield when the whistle blew itself, he grabbed the ball and just punted it into the stands. That was a clear expression of emotion, just saying, Phoenix, you can get on back home. And Neil Collins, as soon as the whistle blew, turned to his technical staff, and he grabbed the first person he could find, and it was a big hug. And all the players are screaming and jumping around. And, of course, the other thing was, obviously, Phoenix players were not too happy that the final whistle had just blown, so there was a lot of trash talk still going on. And Neil Collins himself got in on that. He was doing the crying gesture towards Santi Moar. I don't know if you caught that at the end there.
I did not catch that. No, I did not. No.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. He clearly had enough of Santi Moar's words after putting the beat down on Phoenix, and he said, go cry to yourself.
And Phoenix deserved that. Imagine this was the USL Championship. I feel like all the Phoenix players would have retired immediately.
Yeah, there was a lot of emotion going on. I like I said, this meant something to all of them, everyone on the field, and to have come away with the win after it's so cool.
Yeah. Another thing I want to mention is that the Rowdies, they looked a lot more clinical on set pieces. I feel like every corner kick, someone got ahead to it, whether it was off target or just a little flick. A Rowdies player won that challenge on every single corner kick.
Yeah, there were a lot of chances that were created that way. It was really good to see.
Yeah, one of the goals came through that way too. The Rowdies showed that they could see a game out. 2-1 down, more than about 20 minutes to play. They could see games out, whether it's possession, whether it's pressing the other team, or whether just sitting back and handling the pressure from Phoenix Rising. And it just shows that how dynamic this team is, that they have the ability to see out a game. Like we said earlier, Laura proved that he's human. Hopefully it's a fluke. It doesn't happen again. I hope it doesn't happen again. He did make good saves though. I feel like I'm being too harsh on Laura. He did make good saves. His positioning was really good. It's just when you make mistakes like that, if you're an attacker and you miss like 10 chances to score that one goal, you're a hero. If you're a defender or a goalkeeper, you make save after save after save, but then you make that one key, error pass, the loss is going to be blamed on you, which is, very unfair in soccer.
Yeah, it's a bit of a blessing and a curse for Loro and Lasso after this one. But as you said, if we are being a little too harsh on them, then let's bring it back, and we'll include them in some some statistics from after the match that point to how well they did, as well as Aaron Guillen on the left and Jordan Scarlett on the right. Phoenix were actually only held to 4 shots within the penalty area. So if you go through, and this is something that I saw on the articles written afterwards, that's the second lowest expected goals that Phoenix has had since the 2018 season. So that's a long time for them to have had so few options as this game. It means that the Rowdies still held their own. And I think that that's really important to bring up.
Yeah, that was going to get to my next point. Their defense, altogether we know they're great. But just individually, how great they've been. Lasso might not have been as the best, but we've seen what he's capable of doing. Guillen, excellent today. Jordan Scarlett, excellent today. Each one, I feel like every single game, I see each one contributes with crucial blocks, crucial last-minute tackles. And, it just really brings this whole defense together that defense really does, it could win you championships. And especially with this defense who has each other's backs all the time, doesn't blame each other. They help each other out. They cover each other if they're out of position. It just shows that they're on the same page all the time. That's including Evan Lauro as well.
Yes, exactly. And with that, now I think that we have a couple questions to go through, and I'll just start with you because you were the one who wrote them down. I think that you're the one who has the answers lined up here. Who was your man of the match for this game?
See, I had to think hard about this one. I was thinking between Aaron Guillen, Steven Dos Santos, and Jordan Scarlett, but ultimately I had to go with Steven Dos Santos. He was just a menace up there, causing problems left and right. He just shows he's not just a hold-up player. He could run down the flank. He has he showed against Phoenix Rising that he has pace to him. He could beat defenders not only with his strength but with his legs as well. And he just scored such a poacher's finisher on his first goal. So I would give it to Steven Dos Santos. Who would you give it to, James?
Well, I had to wrestle with the same questions, obviously, and I think as much as Steven Dos Santos put himself in good positions, the one thing that I would ask of him in future is to be a little better with his finishes. He got the one goal, but there were several chances that I saw he should have got just right, past the post or whatever the case might be. It was just something that he didn't get quite perfect enough.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's what you need when you're trying to score. So for me, I'm going to have to give my man of the match to Aaron Guillen. And he's been one of my favorite defenders to watch. Last season, I thought he was just a rock. And Lasso got the MVP, or the Defensive Player of the Year, I should say. But I was always of the opinion that Aaron Guillen was right there alongside him as one of the best. So I really got to say that he was probably up there for me. Now, you have another team here, or another question here that is related to the team. Do you think, at this point, that they are the best team in the league? Is it too early to tell that?
I do not think it's too early to tell because we've seen them play against, two teams that, let's be honest, they're mid-table teams. They're teams that might just barely nick a spot in the playoffs or might even make the playoffs at all. But once we see them face a team like Phoenix Rising, who, let's be honest, they're off to a hot start just like the Rowdies. But we've seen what they're capable of doing. They can see out games. They can score. They're not afraid to press opposing teams. So I would say that they're the best team in the league this early in the season.
Okay, well that is a bold one, and I think that the next question you put here is even bolder. Is it the case that Steven Dos Santos is already an MVP candidate? What are your thoughts?
The reason why I put this game is because I've just been heavily impressed. Although he's a league veteran, I've just been heavily impressed with the way he's already contributed. We see the way he works with Sebastian Guenzati. So I would say he is up there, but I would put other Rowdies players as well, because just the way they're doing. What about you, James? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to have to sit the fence on this one and say that it is both too early to say that they're the best team and too early to give him an MVP shout. But I would say if the season ended tomorrow for whatever reason, then best team in the league, probably the MVP. Unfortunately, with 3 games in, I'm going to have to be the one that pulls back, especially after my seemingly wild goal-scoring prediction for this previous game against Phoenix. So I'm gonna restrain myself this time.
At what point in the season, would you say you would have a better idea to see if they're the best team or if any players are early league MVP candidate?
I'm gonna say that we should get some more data against teams that are also in our division. But then the other thing that I would say is 2 of the best teams in the league that aren't the Rowdies are outside of our division. Right now, Tulsa is the other one that's really doing well in the East, and then obviously there's Phoenix. Phoenix we just beat. It was just the one game, and any team can win any game on a given day. But Tulsa are still doing well, and there are a couple others that we have to face before I would have to give my say on that. So I'm going to wait for more out of conference games, because I think that within the conference we're looking really good. It's going to be the big teams that are in each particular division. It's going to be the big teams that are in each particular division that I'm looking at.
All right. I agree with you. I just feel like just the way they've been playing has just been, it's been exceptional soccer. And I just, this early in the season, until they meet, Tulsa, if they do, I'm not sure if they do, it's going to be tough to see who could defeat the Rowdies. Now, as far as this next game this Saturday against the Miami FC, we've seen the Rowdies battle hard, James. We've seen them, put up a fight. We've seen players like White getting subbed out because he just looked tired, but he put in an excellent shift. Do you see head coach Neil Collins wanting to change up the lineup a little bit to give some players rest and to give some players, a start, first start for the Rowdies?
I think that there's definitely an option to give players some rest, and the best part about that is that we have such a long list of players who are still waiting to get more playing time. There are players who came on late in this game, and there are players who have come on late in previous games, and there are players who are still out right now because they're injured.
Yeah.
There's a lot to look forward to in that sense, and as soon as some player puts their hand up and says, "Hey, I'm going to need a little bit of a break this week. Can you see if somebody else can step in?" There are lots of players that'll do that, and one of the big ones I've seen in the middle is Lewis Hilton and Lawrence Weick have been just running all game, each game that they've been out there. They've been so involved. It's just that they're everywhere, and they're eventually going to have to be the ones who put their hands up and say, "This is where I'm feeling a little bit tired, a little bit overworked. It might be the case that I should only play a half this game," whatever the case may be. And luckily, Jordan Doherty is there, who was our starter last year. So I think that there are a lot of options, and I think that Jordan Doherty is probably one of the ones that we're going to see moving into the starting lineup before some of the other players.
I believe that Connor Antley might be given a rest this week. Maybe we might see Sebastian Dahlgaard come in, in his original right wing back role and see what he could do. Maybe if Dos Santos or Gonzalez, which I highly doubt, if they maybe want a rest, Jordan Adebayo-Smith will get his chance. And I really have a strong feeling that whenever Jordan Adebayo-Smith starts, he'll get another goal for the Rowdies. Because we've seen he could have had a goal against Phoenix Rising. He's been bright every single time he's come on. I would love to see him start, but when you have players like Dos Santos and Gonzalez who are firing on all cylinders, you just don't sit them out unless they specifically tell Neil Collins, hey, give me a break real quick.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Doherty was a starter last year. A newcomer White comes in. He's starting now with Hilton the past 2 games, although Doherty started the first game. Who do you believe has earned the starting position next to White? Because I'm assuming that Neil Collins loves White, and I believe the fans should as well, because he's just all over the field. So who do you believe should start next to White, Hilton or Doherty?
Well, it depends on whom they're trying to single out in any given game, because they obviously bring different skill sets. But for the time being and overall, I would say that it was Hilton. He was another player that I thought was up for a Man of the Match award for this past game against Phoenix. I thought that his work rate was amazing. He never stopped. He was making incredible tackles all over the field. He was always bothering their players when they were trying to pass to the forwards, or if they had passed to the forwards, he was there to bother them too, along with whichever defender had been marking that one. So I thought that his work rate he earned that by his sheer Olympic running out there.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think one thing that I feel like people have noticed too is that his long balls and just his accuracy is just phenomenal. We see on set pieces, when he's down deep in the field, when he tries to switch to play, his passes are just very, very accurate. And I believe, Hilton should start next to White. One thing, I'm just being really nitpicky, because we know the Rowdies are 3-0, undefeated. It's like everything's going perfectly. Everything's going perfect for the Rowdies right now. Should Rowdies fans be even 1% worried that Gonzalez didn't score against Phoenix Rising?
Well, this is the way that I would look at it. There are, as noted in this game, and the previous game, and the one before that, you're going to have some players who are just lights out, best game they've played all season. You're going to have some players who are, this is just not their game. Maybe it's an off night. You're going to have players that are in between both of those. And I think that Gonzalez was on one of those kind of off nights because he was quiet. You mentioned previously in the podcast last week that Zach Steinberger was a little disappointing in terms of his involvement. Yeah. And this game against Phoenix, he was absolutely everywhere. He's the one that caused the own goal because he was supposed to get on the end of that cross before Aiden Quinn stepped in and then knocked it into his own net. So Zach Steinberger steps up, and in this one, Seba, I guess, he just did not have a great time finding himself involved in the game. So it's going to go back and forth, and there will be games when Steinberger is again, not exactly the most involved one. There will be games when Steven Dos Santos is not the most involved one. And there will be games when all three of them are out for injuries or substitutions or whatever the case may be. So I'm not too worried about it. I just want to see that after a game where he might be less involved, that he's able to rebound and get back into the next game, much like I'm sure you're looking forward.
Yeah, I just want to mention real quick. I really hope that Zach Steinberger did not hear our podcast last episode, because like I said he was really not performing at the level he's capable of doing. And against Phoenix Rising, he does what he usually does, and he just picking apart defenses with passes and stuff like that. And maybe he did hear what I had to say. If he did, I didn't mean no trash talk or any offense to him. I just want to say that.
Well, if you didn't mean it as trash talk and he heard it, then he certainly took it as the proper motivation.
He took it personal, and same thing going for Gonzalez. For some reason, if you hear this, don't take it personal. I'm just being very nitpicky right now. One thing I want to mention real quick before I move on to the standings update, something that many people may have not noticed. The referees, all the officials against Phoenix Rising, they are wearing blue wristbands that say HD. Now, this stands for Huntington disease, and the month of May is Huntington disease awareness month. This is to honor former referee Terry Vaughn. He learned he had this disease at age 30, and every official in the MLS, USL, and WSL are all wearing blue wristbands. This is it. So Huntington disease is a genetic disorder that causes progressive breakdown of the nerve cells in the brain. So this deteriorates a person's physical and mental abilities, usually between the ages of 20 to 50. And there's really no cure, and that's really unfortunate. But, Terry Vaughn, he was a U.S. soccer referee. He refereed in the U20 Canada World Cup, the CONCACAF Champions League, many college games. And it's just a really, it's a really great thing, a really great movement that the U.S. soccer referees are doing, to support Huntington's Disease Awareness Month. And I thought that deserved an honorable mention.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that they're taking the time to do something like that, because if you have a platform, whatever that platform is, you can make some good change.
All right, James, time for the standings update. You ready?
All right, I think I am. So, we got to look at where the Rowdies are now, and it's looking pretty good, as you might well imagine. We are first in the East over Tulsa. Tulsa has played 3 games. We have played 3 games, and we've all won all 3 games, but we have a better goal differential right now. And if you want to get more local than that and more specific for the playoffs, you look in our division, and that's where we are also first over Hartford this time. Hartford have 3 games under their belt, 2 wins, 1 draw. So obviously our 3 points from the first 3 games each are going to be ahead of Hartford, and that's looking pretty good. Now, the one other thing that I want to say about the standings is, it's only 3 games in, whatever. Maybe it's not that big of a deal in the end of the season, but it is true at this moment that Phoenix are currently 4th in the West because of this loss. They are 4th in the West, and they are behind 3 current and former reserve teams for MLS clubs. So that's got to feel a little bit more of a sting than even they were expecting when they flew out and back to Arizona.
That's a very drop off from Phoenix Rising. It just shows that in this league, you lose 1 game, no matter if you on a win streak, it could really hurt you bad. And I'm just really happy that the Rowdies continue their unbeaten run, and like you said, they are first in the East over Tulsa, and I just want to see this trend going on. Exactly.
And the team that we play next, they will hopefully be able to carry that on, like you said. We are playing the Miami FC, and I just want to highlight again for everybody, it is the Miami FC, because they are having trouble getting the rights to the name Miami FC. So, unfortunate for them. But they are in our division, so this is going to be important ultimately in the standings. Yep. And they have 2 wins so far from their first 3 games and 1 loss. Their 2 wins were against MLS reserve teams, and their win, or their loss, I should say, was against Hartford, the second place team in our division. So That's what we're up against right now. They have not been scoring a ton so far, and they've had a lot of changes in their lineup because they brought in a lot of players late into the preseason, so it's kind of hard to tell exactly where this team will go at this moment. But they do have 6 consistent starters that form a spine for the team. Those are Lance Roseboom, Devin Speedy Williams, he goes by Speedy, and the other player in the midfield for them is Bolu Akinyode. So those 3 have been in the midfield for the most part, and they've been pretty good at setting up the rest of the team to play. And then they have the 2 center backs behind them, Ramon Martin Del Campo and Paco Craig. Those have been, like I said, the spine for this Miami team so far, and then their goalkeeper, Connor Sparrow. The best thing that I can think for shutting down that midfield is Speedy Williams. He's going to be the best player. He's a former top player for Louisville, and he's got a lot of pedigree in this league. So if we can get somebody, maybe a Lewis Hilton, after this performance, to just kind of sit on him and make sure that he's not got much room to play the ball around, I think that that's going to be a really important thing for this game, because they don't have a ton of fluidity on this team just yet. They're very new to each other. They don't quite understand, what each individual player might want in terms of receiving the ball or passing the ball, whatever the case may be. So if you can put them off their game, that's going to be really crucial to shutting down the team as a whole in their attacks. And I think that Devin Williams is going to be the biggest block to shut down. And that's the main thing that I think will help us out here.
One thing, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, there are 2 other quick things to mention on the team. Sean McFarlane is a former Rowdies 2 player, and then Luca Antonelli is a former Italy international that they have there. There's a connection through Italy with the ownership group, but yeah, that's about the team that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, I was going through the Miami FC roster. One player that caught my eye was number 98, Pierre Da Silva, because I remember, although he was signed for Orlando City, he never really made... he never played a game for Orlando City. He was always loaned out to Orlando City B. He was loaned out to St. Louis, to Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC, Orange County SC. He was always loaned out. He was loaned out to many teams, so he never really played for Orlando City. But maybe the Rowdies team should keep an eye on him, just because Orlando must have seen something in him. But it's just one player that caught my eye from this roster.
Yeah, there was definitely some talent on the team. It's just whether or not they can get that talent to gel with whoever is built up around them. And so far, with the changing lineup and the players and the changing formation even, it's a little hard to say that they will be able to put all that together. But of course, every new game is a new game, and it's a clean slate. Pierre Da Silva or anyone else that they have running up the right and left wings are going to be looking to turn this game around and turn it into something big.
All right. There you have it, your Miami preview. Now, James, here's the moment everyone has been waiting for. You ready?
Do I know it? Do I know what it is?
I believe you know exactly what it is. Are you ready for your predictions for this weekend's match?
I guess I did know what it is. All right. So I have I started really strong and then I threw it away. But I think that I am on the right track with this. I'm going to say the Rowdies do still score 3 goals. Okay. But I'm going to say Miami scores 1 as well. I'm going to go with a 3-1 Rowdies win.
3-1 Rowdies win. All right, I thought about this for a while, and I wasn't too sure, but I'm going to go with it. It's very close to yours. I'm going to go with another 3-0 win for the Rowdies. They're just going to build off the momentum through that. Not only the Phoenix Rising game, but the previous 3 games. I just think it'll be another 3-0 win. Lasso and Laurel will show that their mistakes was a fluke, and they'll tighten up the back line. And although Miami does have talented players, I feel like talented individuals cannot be a team like the Rowdies, where everyone's on the same page. So I believe a 3-0 victory will happen for the Rowdies this Saturday.
All right. Well, something's going to be on the line here for these predictions soon. I don't know what, but we're going to find something because I need to make sure that I'm stepping up my game here. I got other pools with predictions amongst my friends, and I got to make sure that I'm, getting better at this at least if I'm going to keep doing it.
It's great practice, James. Is there anything you want to say before we go, James?
At this point, I just want to mention when the game is. It is Saturday night at 7:30, and this one will be back on ESPN Plus. If you have an ESPN Plus subscription, great. If you don't, they're pretty inexpensive. I would recommend getting one. You can watch a lot more than just the Rowdies, but I know that you're also just trying to watch the Rowdies like I am. So yeah, check that out. And the other thing, if you can go to the game, you can actually buy tickets now. Those are on sale again, so try and get out there. See what the audience for one of these games is like. The Rowdies crowd is one of the best, I think, that we will see, especially in this league. And you should definitely try to be a part of it.
Absolutely. I can't wait for myself to go to one of these games finally. But that's going to do it for this episode of RBLR Rowdies on RBLR Sports. My name's Leo. I'm joining alongside by James. Make sure to follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at RBLR Sports. You can follow me on Twitter at _Leo Santos __. James, where can these people find you?
I have updated my Twitter profile so that I'm a little more current. You can follow me at RBLR James K on Twitter.
I like it. I like that new username, James. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio app, Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and other major podcast platforms, you name it. And once again, I want to thank you for your time. And as always, go Rowdies.
Go Rowdies. Thanks, listeners.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.